Which basic knowledge did you totally forget for a moment? I cut my finger and grabbed a paper towel to cover it up. Thought it was terribly inconvenient to just hold it there, but what if there was some adhesive substance to hold this stuff in place? Grabbed some duct tape, wrapped the paper towel in it, and stuck the rest to the lower part of my finger. Ta-da man, I'm brilliant. My mom looked at me like, what the frick are you doing? I then realized I had invented the band-aid, while never being more than 3 feet from a pack of the genuine article this entire time. I especially love this one. BC, I can imagine you being so deeply proud of your invention only to be crushed moments later. Went to the doctor's office with my dad to get my medical records and they had to ask me some questions. They asked me my birthday and I just looked at my dad like, get this one for me, cause for the life of me, I could not remember. I was 16-17 at the time. I once forgot what rain was called. I was super tired and in the process of going to bed. I asked my wife, is it supposed to ugh? What's it called? You know when the water falls from the sky. My wife goes, is it supposed to rain tomorrow? Is that what you're asking? To this day rain is referred to as water falling from the sky instead of rain. What you call a person who is from China? Easy, just remember people from Canada are called Canadians, so a person from China is a Chinian. I forgot what the word mud was. I was at work and some sterile product got delivered to us covered in mud. This makes the product no longer sterile and I have to send it back and inform my boss. I send her a text and say the product was covered in liquid dirt. It wasn't until hours later when I mentioned the issue to a coworker and he looked at me dumbfounded and said, "You mean mud?" It was at that moment I realized how stupid I was. Brownie points because my boss knows now too. I blanked on my own name once. I was shaking hands with someone and my brain just died for a moment. I presented myself as my friend's name, then I just stood there quietly with my broken thoughts as my friend had to tell me what my actual name was. It was such a confusing situation. Spent half an hour one time trying to make my brain accept that want is obviously a word, because how else would one contract will and not? Why does this look weird? Why does this sound weird? It has to be a word. For a couple seconds I was thinking the same thing. I wouldn't be made to feel like an idiot. Once while driving I wondered how blind people see the lane divider lines. They only drive on highways with rumble strips. I once forgot how to write the letter G. Took me about 20 seconds to remember. Sometimes I forget the name for radiators and end up calling them microwaves. When I see elevators, 90% of the time, I automatically think umbrellas, no clue why. Back in the times of printing out driving directions, I mixed up left and right once and I ended up some 2 hours away from my destination. I was 16 with no cell phone and extremely socially awkward, so it took a lot of courage to ask a gas station attendant how to get back to my city. A couple friends were waiting at my house when I got there. They said they thought I died or was kidnapped or something. The power at my house had gone. I'm on a beta, so it's fairly common thing. My phone started to die, so I put it on charge, then spent about 10 minutes trying to figure out why it wouldn't charge. My attempt also included trying to Google why it wouldn't charge, to no avail, cost no power, so no internet. It was at that point I realized we hardly ever lose power. When we do, I still try to turn on the light switch in every room I enter. Is it flannel or funnel? It was fennel. I was just starting a new school in 9th grade and had to write an essay about myself that the other kids in the class would read. I forgot how to spell pants and wrote pants. In 2nd grade I couldn't remember how to spell off on a spelling test. I wrote off. I am still embarrassed by this memory. How to tie my shoes. I just sorta spaced out and stared blankly for a few seconds wondering what in the heck I was supposed to do. I'm like Aesopian centipede in that, as long as I don't think of it, my hands just do it. Once I start thinking about how do I do that, I'm lost and can't do it forever. I forgot how to swallow. I was eating a steak at a diner, one of those steak and eggs breakfast platters, so you know it's not the best steak. It was tough and impossible to swallow. My esophagus was so peed, it forgot how to swallow for about a day. I would try to eat but could not remember how. My tongue would press against the roof of my mouth and that's all that would happen. The next day I had a hot tea and that fixed it. That's scary. How to spell who? I was thinking who but realized something was wrong. When I was a senior in college, I spent several minutes longer than I should have thinking that onion was spelled the same as union, and wondering how people could tell the difference in writing. If it makes you feel better, I read both of those words as onion and was very distressed until I realized that union is a different word. I read, silently to myself, a sentence that went something like no one knows what they had been doing in there, and my brain's internal narrator mispronounced the word doing as a perfect rhyme for boing. You know, like a comic book sound effect. Doing. No distractions, no background noise. Just suddenly I forgot how an extremely common word is pronounced. I was once doing a maths exam and one of the questions asked something like Nigel has this many apples or something. I don't remember, I just know the guy's name was Nigel, except when I read it in my head, I read it as, well, I read it as Nigel, and for a good minute I was stumped as to why anyone would call their child that. Apologies to anyone called Nigel. I forgot what hand sanitizer was called when a classmate had put some on. I was commenting on how pungent it was when I forgot the word for pungent as well. So my sentence in the end was, your hand sauce is loud. Needless to say they were very confused and concerned. I have, on 2 occasions, forgotten the word aquarium. The closest I could manage was fish zoo. I forgot hourglass and described it to my co-workers as that sand timer thing. Nobody else could remember the real word until someone googled it. Then we all felt really dumb. I forgot my own birthday a few times. Just didn't seem too important till someone asked and I was like Once I entered the shower, got wet, and then I got so distracted that I came out without actually washing. Had to re-enter the shower. At least one morning out of every 3 I forget whether I've washed my hair yet. The word scissors mid-surgery. Normally we call them mets, for Metzenbaum scissors, but we had a new student as the scrub tech and I went to ask for mets. Asked a few times, tried to remember the word scissors, failed, referred to them as snippies and did a little finger scissors motion, looking like an idiot in front of the doctor. At least it worked and I got my scissors. I pretty much always call scissors snips at home, and while I'm looking for them I absent-mindedly do the finger snipping thing. Makes it a lot of fun when I need scissors at my office job. When I was in the 8th grade, at the end of the year we were playing an around the world style social studies based game where we only had like 15 seconds to answer whatever question the teacher asked. It gets to me and he asks where penguins are from. I panic, the word on the tip of my tongue but running out of time. I blurt out the first cold place I can think of, Russia, then a couple seconds of dumbfounded silence. I was typically regarded as one of the smart kids, so this was even more uncharacteristically dumb. Then I go, wait, Alaska. I am obviously eliminated. My best friend is laughing her butt off, and then I head desk. Antarctica. I meant Antarctica. I was ordering hot wings at a local barbecue joint. I was wondering if they still came with the fibrous green vegetable but couldn't remember the name. Ended up describing it to the cashier and she looks at me weird and says, you mean celery? Ugh. Yes, that's what I meant. That's when you speak with an accent and pretend English isn't your native language. Not long after my daughter was born, I took her to a meetup with friends. I put her car seat next to another baby in the group. Then, sitting down, I asked the mom across from me how it was having twins. I completely forgot that one of those babies was mine. I once forgot how to count in the only language I have, and had to stare at the blackboard for a few seconds trying to remember. I forgot how to throw a ball, an embarrassing moment in my life which my brain will never allow me to forget. In high school I was walking through the local fair with my then girlfriend. We come across a generic throw ball, hit the stuff, win things booth. The prizes are irrelevant but who cares, it's something fun to do. So I pick up the baseball and throw it without a second thought, except I fling it full strength straight into the ground. It was a perfect 45-degree angle throw into the dirt. I'm like, what the frick was that? It must have slipped. Everyone laughs it off. So I go to throw the second ball, and the same thing happens. I realize that I've completely forgotten how to throw a ball. I'm releasing way too late. Just whipped it straight into the ground. There was less laughter this time. The booth guy looks confused and says, "Don't you know how to throw a ball?" I swear I do. I don't know what is happening. I play catch with my brother regularly. This is insane. And I immediately start to stress out at the situation. The booth guy looks like he feels sorry for me and offers me a third try for free. I have to redeem myself. I don't have to win a prize. I just have to throw a freaking ball to prove to everyone I know how to do it at this point. But nope. Again. Straight into the ground this time. Like I'm spiking a goddamn football. I'm speechless. Someone from the crowd behind me says, "What the frick is wrong with you?" My girlfriend just looks disappointed. Not because I didn't win, but because it's so embarrassing that I would even try to do this while apparently having nearly indescribably poor motor skills. All I can do is walk away. I have no idea what happened. Nobody believes me that I do in fact know how to throw a ball. This memory haunts me still many years later anytime my brain decides, "Hey, remember that one time?" This is one of the best so far, you poor soul. Don't know if this counts, but I forgot the password I set for my phone not even a second after setting it. Sad part is I never remembered it and got my phone disabled. Changing passwords is the worst. You work yourself up making sure to create the perfect combo of secure and ease of remembering. Then when going to log in the first time, you enter your previous 2 passwords and sweat bullets remembering the one you just created in the hopes of not locking yourself out. Somebody asked me what day of the week it was, so I lifted up both of my hands to see which made an L. Reading this, I went to think if there were any days that started with L, and though January, February. Wait, frick, this thread is getting to me. I whispered into my wife's mouth once. To be fair, she kept her mouth open to listen to me. I almost laughed out loud. During an HS history exam, I forgot how to spell Jesus. Got a 97 on the test cause lost 3 points how to spell it. It wasn't a religious test or school, just from that time period. The red mark WHO-3 made me quite embarrassed though. How to spell of was unclear on where the V goes. There was like a whole week for me a couple years ago where every time I wrote of I actually wrote of and then was baffled for a couple minutes because I knew it looked wrong but couldn't figure out exactly why. I knew there were 50 states in the US but I said 52 when asked for a trivia game. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. This is a very common mistake that Americans make. There was a study done and some absurd percentage of people instantly answered 52 when asked the same question. I just forgot for like half a minute how many days were in a year. I always struggle to remember if it is 52 or 54 weeks in a year. If I'm running up the stairs or down the stairs and suddenly think how am I doing this, walking becomes manual for a second and I fall. It turns the autopilot off, like when the dentist says breathe through your nose. Oh, you sucker. This is totally going to happen to me today now that you've said this. Goddammit, it's extra laundry day. Frick. I forgot my name once, in an exam. I waved the prof over and told him that I'd totally blanked on the first question. He started to explain the question, but then I told him I meant my name. He laughed slightly, before realizing I was serious, then telling me my name. Funniest part was, when I got my exam back, I got a bonus point for putting my name on the paper. I forget what a washing machine is called at least once a month. I end up calling it a clothes washer out of desperation. People laugh at me every time. To be fair, it's a more accurate name. One time at science class my teacher asked this really tricky question. I answered it right but then she asked me how many minutes an hour has and the only numbers I could recall were 45 and 64. Minecraft stack. My age, starting in my early 20s, or so I think. Yep, you know you are starting to get old when you have to do the math on your age. I was out boogie boarding in the ocean when it started raining. No thunder, and you're wet anyway, so who cares? But I put my board over my head so I can see a bit better, and I notice the sound of the rain hitting the board and think, wow, that sounds just like a rain stick. The rain sounds like a rain stick. I forgot that Rice Krispies make that noise when you add milk and scared the heck out of myself when I poured a bowl. I had a weird thing once when a colleague needed my password, And the very simple process of having to speak it and not use finger memory to type it made me forget it. I had been typing it every morning for about a year through finger memory. I had to go to IT and explain how I'd forgotten it after a year. Tied a tie for church one morning. Nice. Symmetrical knot, but I got it a little too short on the first try. No big deal. I always do that. I'll just tie it. Wait. How do you even tie a tie? Had to YouTube it after having just done it literally the moment before. Once something becomes mechanical memory, it's hard to deliberately recall it. I have forgotten my PIN code a couple times because I've had it for so long it has become muscle memory. Then one day I'm standing there in front of the ATM like a dunce. I've played Pokemon so much for so many years since it came out that sometimes I forget a word for things like caterpillar because my brain goes for Caterpie instead. You've been visited by the good policy grandpa. You will be blessed with good economics and healthcare, but only if you comment sleep well burner. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.